Hi guys, what's up? My name is David and welcome back to my channel. So, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you might have noticed that recently I changed the name of this channel from Queer Pagan to the Queer Viking Bro. And today I would like to give you some context as to why I did that and who I am, what type of content I have been making, and what type of content I am planning to make in the future, and how this name change of my channel is related to it. So, if you didn't know, I am 19 years old and I'm in the third year of my bachelor's degree in Scandinavian studies at the University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And I started this channel as a sort of personal vlog to document my transition, but I soon realized that being trans is not really what I want to talk about on the internet, and there's enough people who do that already, and I feel like it's not something that defines me, and I would prefer to make content related to my actual interests rather than my gender identity. But since I am a queer person, it does kind of flow into other aspects of my life, and I have been able to look at certain things from a queer perspective, which is exactly what I'm kind of trying to do with my channel, because the things that I like talking about most are related directly to the Viking Age or the modern use of the Viking past, and using sort of narratives from queer studies, queer discourse, and just from my experience as a queer person, I think it gives some useful perspectives that are not that commonly talked about in the scholarly world regarding the Viking Age. And also, I really don't like this whole gap between what is known about the Viking Age and Scandinavian past in general in popular culture and what the average person knows about it versus what is actually talked about in the scholarly world, which is where I, as a young starting academic, am trying to kind of see how this content can be communicated in a way that is not looking down upon people who might not have access to this specific type of knowledge and information. And my channel is to be called Queer Pagan because I wanted to take two very vague concepts that were relevant to my experience as a human being on this planet and kind of show how they are interplaying with each other. And I wanted to talk about queer related topics and pagan related topics in the sense of historic pre-Christian paganism, but also modern paganism. But I am not like some kind of like witchy woo-woo spiritual type of person. So I thought that this name doesn't really represent who I am and maybe gives a distorted view of what to expect from my channel. So I decided to rename it to the Queer Viking Bro, and there's a whole story behind that. So a Viking Bro is basically someone who watched the Vikings TV series and has a Vegvisir tattoo and calls themselves, I don't know, Ragnar Odinson or whatever. And as I said in a quote to a friend, I am kind of like a meta commentary on what a Viking Bro is, because as a trans person, I have admired this stereotypical masculinity of people interested in the Viking Age, especially people like listening to stuff like Viking metal or Viking music or whatever you'd like to call this genre that is not actually Viking music, but that. So I wanted to look like that. I aspired to look like that. And now, by existing in this niche, this community of people interested in these topics, I kind of provide a different view of the type of person that is interested in this stuff, because for me it's not conforming to these stereotypical ideas of masculinity, but rather having other expectations put on me and yet deciding to do with it what I wanted to in order to present myself in this world. And also, I have watched the Vikings TV series. I do have a Vegvisir tattoo. I also have Elder Futhark tattooed on my back, which is not Viking. But the difference between me and some people that might be considered Viking bros is that I am pursuing a degree related to Scandinavia and the Viking Age. I'm planning to do a master's degree in Viking and medieval Norse studies. I can use elements from popular culture or use elements that some people use incorrectly in the correct way, or at least explain what they are, how they are not related to the Viking Age. For example, a Vegvisir. A lot of people just assume it's a Viking symbol because when you Google Viking symbols on the internet, the first thing it shows you is the Vegvisir and the Eishjelmer, neither of which are Viking. They're both modern symbols. The Eishjelmer comes from the 17th century and the Vegvisir from the 19th century, but they're still cool Icelandic magical staves. And if anyone is interested in Icelandic magical staves, there's this beautiful book which I got from the settlement exhibition in Reykjavik, and it's just, all these fun symbols. Here you have it, that are taken from Icelandic manuscripts and described here what their meaning is according to these magical traditions that they were used in. It's called Sorcerer's Screed, the Icelandic Book of Magical Spells, and the same publisher has this book called the Book of Icelandic Futhark or something. I'll put it on the screen if you are interested. So yeah, as I've said, I am interested in the same topics that some of these Viking bros are interested in, but from a more academic point of view. And yeah, like I said, I have access to a university degree and to some types of knowledge that these people probably don't even know exists, which is okay. Like, I am not saying that me studying this is somehow makes me better, superior, or whatever. I just understand that not everyone wants to have access to this type of information, and for some people it's perfectly fine to just know things that they've read on the internet or saw on Facebook once, which is questionable. But the world needs all types of people. If everyone wanted to pursue a fucking Viking Age related degree, then I don't think society would work. And then there's, the queer Viking bro aspect. Well, yeah, I am queer. And by queer, I mean that my gender and sexuality does not align to typical ideas of gender and sexuality. I know that people have a very specific idea of what queer is supposed to mean, but it is a very vague term, and I prefer to keep it very vague because I do not like micro-labels. I don't like labeling myself. And I like that the term queer is so vague, because when I say I'm queer, people have different ideas of what that means to themselves, and they don't really ask, like, oh, what do you mean by that? And even if they did, like, I could explain, there's no problem. It just means that I am not cisgender and not heterosexual, but I just don't like micro-labeling myself. If it works for others, then it's perfectly fine, but I feel like the label queer just describes me perfectly fine. It's just a part of who I am as a person, and yeah, I guess it has helped, like I said before, in viewing things from a queer perspective and point of view. And once you kind of realize that your personal identity falls outside of societal norms of how you should act, then it's easier to also notice these binary patterns in other areas of life, for example, in history, which is also a very sensitive subject, obviously. Pushing modern ideas of identity and individuality onto the past is something that happens a lot because people are just used to their own worldview and assuming that people hundreds, if not thousands of years ago must have had the same outlook on life, which is not necessarily true. But that's why it's important, I guess, for these areas which are dominated by white men to also include some queer people and also queer people of color, because I know that while I might not be assigned male at birth and heterosexual, I am still white. I am still perceived as a white man, although some people would argue that I am not white enough because I am from Eastern Europe, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I do think that perspectives of people with more diverse backgrounds are very relevant to study something that is most synonymous with white people culture, because that's an idea that some people have on the Viking Age. That's all just, the Nordic race, the ancestors of all the glorious white masculine men and stuff, which is obviously a highly problematic thing to say. But again, that is why I'm here and I'm trying to provide new perspectives on things that seem obvious about the Viking Age. And I know that a lot of people will disagree with me. I get a lot of hate comments. And I think one of the reasons why I decided to change the name of my channel is because people just read my name and decide that based on that they find what I say irrelevant or just immediately assume that it's bullshit. And I don't know, I don't like being perceived that way. Obviously, I don't think anyone wants to be stereotyped based on two words. So I think the Queer Viking Bro is something that makes people think a little bit more than Queer Pagan, especially because I personally am not very religious per se. As someone that was brought up Roman Catholic, I have a difficult relationship with religion, and I am more than willing to talk about that if anyone is interested. So let me know if you would like to hear about that. I feel like I want to distance myself from identities that kind of force me to align myself with a specific way of thinking, and I would prefer to give my own interpretation of my own life, if that's okay with you. But nothing is going to change about my channel and what I talk about. It's just the name that I think will fit better. And you know, I've had this channel for like 2 years now, and I have quite a lot of subscribers since a few months ago, which is great. But I do also feel like with this name, I might be able to attract more people. So if you know anyone that would be interested in my channel, even if you are not, but probably if you're still watching, then I somehow suspect that you are. So yeah, if there's anyone in your surroundings that you think might be interested in what I have to say, let them know. Feel free to share this, talk to your friends about this. I really would like to have my community of people who have similar interests, are willing to listen to what I have to say and provide their own feedback, because I love it when people tell me what they think about my content, what they would like to hear from me. So that is also another thing I would like to talk about if you're still watching this, because I am considering starting a Patreon, and I know that I don't have that many subscribers, so I just wanted to post this in case anyone was interested, to just see if people would be willing to pay for exclusive content from me. And it wouldn't be a lot. It would be like, I don't know, as little as I would be able to make it. But I am a full-time student, and next year I am most likely moving to Iceland for my master's degree, which is going to be a very expensive thing. And I already put so much time and effort into my YouTube channel, so it's basically work, and I'm not yet monetized because I don't have enough watched hours yet. So if you cannot pay, but you would like to support me, then I would love it if you just went and watched as many of my videos as you can, because that will give me the right to get monetized, which I'm very close to. So please, 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 if there's any way you can support my channel, please do that, because I really love doing this. I love doing this for you, but it does take a lot of time and effort. So it would be cool if I would get something back from it that will be useful for the rest of my life, like money. Unfortunately, we live in a capitalist world where you need to do stuff that gets you money in order to be able to do other stuff that you need to spend money on. So yeah, that's everything I have to say for today. I know it's not really been a very educational video or something. I am definitely going right back into making useful content next week, but I just wanted to have this set in case anyone was confused as to why I changed my channel name. But not like it matters a lot. I mean, I'm still the same person. I'm still going to do similar things to what I've done before, and if there's anything you would like me to talk about that you haven't heard, me talk about before or haven't heard anyone talk about before, then feel free to let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, week, month, whatever it is that you're watching this. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.